Okay, if you have noticed this title, I've deliberately made the title of this video to be provocative because that is, in fact, the title of the book that I'm going to be discussing. So, quick disclaimer, um, the title doesn't refer to my thoughts, okay? And if you believed it did, then it's kind of a point in making actually with this because it goes to show that first impressions are significant. So if people have seen my video and felt, what, this white guy saying he doesn't want to talk to white people about race? Not at all. That's not what's happening. But it's kind of the point about how the way a title is chosen is important. Although I think in this case it actually does relate to the content based on the descriptions. So why I no longer talk to white people about race. Um, this is a non-fiction book by Reni Eddo-Lodge. And she's a London-based writer. She's a young woman in her mid-20s, I understand. And this book is just really propelled into success. I saw it featured all over the front shop windows of my local Waterstones branch today in the Sunderland Bridges. And this is how they describe it on their Facebook page. Charged and necessary wake-up call to pervasive racism. Why I'm no longer talking to white people about race is our non-fiction book of the month, with 20% of sales going to Black Training and Enterprise Group, ETEG, and Inquest Such Block Couples throughout July. Okay, so let me just get one thing out of the way. No, I haven't read the book because I remember a white woke guy made that point when I brought this up on a discussion forum. He said, "Oh, well, how can you criticize it if you haven't read it?" There's a few things with that. Firstly, the very premise of the title, Why I No Longer Speak to White People About Race, invites real, really poignant um, aspects of where she's going with this, for want of a better term. I mean, if you're saying, oh, well, give her the benefit of the doubt, maybe she means well and it's just a provocative title. But the premise, the very premise of the title is if you're white, I don't want anything to do with you. So how can you practically read something that the author is telling you they don't want you to read, essentially? Because if she's saying, I don't talk to white people about this, then ostensibly it follows that she doesn't want them to read what she's saying either. So she's not talking to white people. She presumably doesn't want them to read this book. I've no doubt that she would only want black and brown people to be reading this. I don't know a great deal about her. I've seen one or two interviews, and the overwhelming impression I get is that she has a lot of bitterness towards white people in general. That's the impression I've got from interviews. And the book, I am not going to buy it in order to read it because I resent giving money to a racist. I mean, if I spent whatever it is, £10, £12, Waterstones is a pricey place, on a book like that, it's all money. What could I get with that? I could get 5 cappuccinos. I could get 10 newspapers. It's a fair bit of money. I could get an evening meal. So first of all, I resent that. I don't think I should be giving money to help create help build up the celebrity and the success of an author who is telling me that as a white guy, she doesn't want to talk to me, right? It's absurd. It's an absurd premise. But that is extremely important. Now, people might say, okay, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Um, but that was deliberately chosen, and it wasn't chosen by the publisher, it was chosen by her, okay? Because I think it's a way of saying that white people are beyond the pale. They'll never understand racism, they'll never understand us black people, so we'll just not talk to them. Let's just have no dialogue, okay? And once again, because this really kicks the woke box. Young black woman, outspoken. She's brave, she's radical. So let's promote her. Doesn't matter how inflammatory it is. It doesn't matter about the fact that a white author could never in a million years write a book saying why I no longer talk to black people about race. Not only would they wouldn't be able to promote that, they would not even get published. It just wouldn't happen because it would rightly be seen as contentious. But because you have a black author, making a book that's taking a swipe at all white people, and yes, it is all white people, then, she gets hailed. Double standards are glaring. But it's worse than that, actually. I think it's a bigger problem than just irritating double standards. I think this permeates. I think this permeates society. And I was thinking about something Douglas Murray said the other day. Um, in the 1990s, the 80s and the 90s. Well, actually, it may have been the other guy I was speaking with, but they were of a similar mindset on this. I forget the other guy's name now. Yeah, apologies, I forget his name off the top of my head. But they made the point, because they agreed on this point, that in the 80s and the 90s there was a rise in political correctness. So what we know as political correctness was definitely on the rise in the 80s and especially the 90s, and I'd say a good bit of the 2000s. But over the last 10 years, and especially over the last 5 years, it's went far deeper than that. This is not just about kind of bit of language policing here and there. We are now actually seeing, and I think it was a point Douglas Murray made, this is no longer about equality. It's actually about some sort of vindictiveness and revenge almost, equality plus. So what these black activists, people like Reni Eddo-Lodge and others are saying is not, we want to be treated equal, don't be racist, which would be totally reasonable. They're saying, well, because of white systemic racism, we now want to get a bit of revenge. We want to shame all white people. We're owed a bit of revenge, for years of systemic white racism. And if you are constantly fed this narrative, it's understandable. This is a point Murray made. Impressionable young people who are told, if you're black, you're going to be kept down by white racists. Of course, they're going to be defensive and bitter about that, if that's what they're always being told by left-wing academics and by the woke leaders. Um, so I think that's what's actually happening. It goes beyond political correctness, which was bad enough. But this is basically a sort of cultural revolution. I really don't think that's an exaggeration. How else can you explain a major book retailer having a racially charged book on its front window aimed at all white people, and that somehow okay? Not only is it okay, but it's hailed and praised. It's staggering. It's just utterly hard to comprehend. Now, let me play the devil's advocate for a second and say, okay, well, maybe the book isn't that inflammatory. Maybe it's a little bit more conciliatory inside. Maybe she's just talking about her lived experience. She's talking about maybe some racial examples that she's been through, of prejudice, and issues that she's faced as a black woman. Okay, but I still contend that by having your opening pitch as you're not going to talk to an entire race, it's it's saying that all white people are one and the same. So to those white allies, in my opinion, they're kidding themselves if they are praising a work like this and thinking that she will thank them for it. I mean, what if they went to a book signing, right? Are they going to put up their hand and ask questions? Or are they going to say, oh, well, I'm white, so I better not, I've got a white voice, and I better not show my white systemic racism, so let the black and brown guests, ask questions. I better just shut up, because it's not my place to ask questions about a book that I've just bought. I honestly think that's the mentality that prevails, with some of these white allies, because they're so taken in by this mindset of guilt, and they're so taken in by this woke narrative, that they actually are scared to ask questions, because they think that if they do, they're somehow showing white power when it's nothing of the sort. Just common sense. So I find it both depressing and troubling because this is not going to end up in anything good. I mean, if this book is about tackling racism, tackling issues of poverty and those sort of things, that's all legitimate. But the follow-up question is, well, what bridges are you building? Barack Obama actually said he called out the woke narrative, I believe it was last year, and he said if you're just throwing bricks at a house, if you're just throwing stones, that's not activism. No, Barack Obama was then dismissed as a boomer who didn't know what he was talking about, and apparently it was even said that he was showing his white side. Um, so another danger, as I see it, is that when you get people like myself, I'm white. I don't like a book that's, saying that I'm not going to speak to you because of the color of your skin. I resent that. Then I would be labeled a reactionary right-wing troll. If I went to her Facebook page and said, I resent you putting out this racist message, you know what would happen? I would be dismissed as a troll and a bully, and I'm harassing her. Because people like this they're very weak-skinned, that they won't take any criticism. So you could be damn sure that Reni Eddo-Lodge is going to be in a bubble now. She will be surrounded by people who say yes to her, say your book is wonderful, it's all great, you're brave, you're speaking out, and no one can ask questions. If they do, well, it must be a white supremacist. It must be a racist. So where's the dialogue to be had? Where is the dialogue to be had when your opening pitch is I'm not talking to you because of the color of your skin? And it's so depressing that people can't see that. I look at many examples in popular culture and social discourse on both sides of the Atlantic where white people and black people have worked together, they've had a laugh together, they've done things together. And I think all of this is setting us back. I really do. It's very sad and it's very frustrating. And it's worse than that, it's dangerous. Because this isn't just a case that there's not a balance in terms of what voices are being heard. I mean, Waterstones would never, have a counter opinion to that. They wouldn't allow it. And it does raise serious questions, by the way, about left wing bias in Waterstones as a company. I mean, would they have the Douglas Murray book selling off the shelves like that? Maybe, but I wouldn't have thought so. Um, Certainly wouldn't promote it in the same way. Would they have a book by Ayan Hirsi Ali for that matter? No, because she's an Islamophobe, so let's not give her a voice. I do suspect, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I do suspect that Waterstones is just trying to show their woke credentials by doing this. And they might say, oh, well, we're just going by the market demand. But they're helping the market demand, you know? Um, so I think this poses real questions. Now, if you have read the book and my analysis is wrong, and she is just trying to reach out, or she is just talking about her personal experience and she isn't shaming all white people, I still put the question, why choose that title? What understanding does that title have? What message is it supposed to send out? And that is my challenge for those who want to defend this book. Um, and if they can't do that, then they've a weak argument, unless they can explain the choice of that title. Why I no longer speak to white people about race. To me, the message is explicit. You're white, you're the problem. I'm not going to talk to you. How can you ever get dialogue with that sort of mindset? But it's not the first time that a race baiter has been promoted in this way. Um, I cite the example of Sarah Jong at the New York Times. who, after her vitriolic rants about white goblins, which she claimed was just aimed at right-wing trolls, but she wasn't saying the right-wing trolls are white goblins. She was saying all white people. Use her Cook Alley, and Black Lives Matter Toronto. These are all examples of minority people who have been extremely inflammatory in some of the things they've said, yet they have all, on some level, escaped scrutiny. I mean, Sarah John got criticised by obviously white people who resented her racist rants, but the New York Times made a weak apology and they kept her on. Nothing really happened to her. The double standards are profound, and there's many, many examples of them. So I'll leave it there. But I don't know. It's depressing. I could complain in my local store. I could say, "Oh, why are you selling this racist book?" But it would be a pinprick. I mean, ostensibly it would be the same in Waterstones across the country. Um, I'm not sure it would make any difference, unfortunately. Um, anyway, my local Waterstone doesn't keep updates on their Facebook page. I could go in and say, "Excuse me, can I speak to the manager? Um, how do you justify selling this racist book?" And they'll probably say something like, "Oh, well, we're sorry you feel that way, but it's the sales," or, they come out with some bureaucratic argument about it. It certainly wouldn't mean it's getting taken off the shelves. And by the way, I want to be clear on one last point. I'm not saying she should be censored. I'm not saying ban the book. That's not my contention here, so I don't want that to be the message. My contention is the double standards. And my contention is, why is this inflammatory book being promoted? So I'm not calling for it to be banned, but I do think that any dissenting voices will be ignored. I did leave a message on their main group, not the local group, but the main group, candidly saying what I thought of this. And I'll probably get thumbed down, told that I'm a white supremacist by other users, or that I misunderstand it, or something like that. It's galling, actually. I mean, Reni Eddo-Lodge, if you're frightened of debating people, if you are so bitter towards white people that you've just ruled out talking to them. I assume, by the way, that means white allies who wear their um, silence is violence t-shirts and all the rest of it. This is the thing. There are a lot of white allies. Someone like Reni Eddo-Lodge seems totally blind to that. As far as she's concerned, all white people are one and the same. It's a racist generalization. Absolutely. It is a racist generalization. So I'm calling Reni Eddo-Lodge a racist. She doesn't like that. She can counter my points.